Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Jen Bency, and I'm a senior account executive with QuickBase. I've been working with government agencies for over a decade, really helping them with their data management and process improvement. And one of those agencies is actually in my home state of Ohio, the Franklin County, Ohio Data Center. And I'm really excited to welcome CIO Adam Frumkin, CDO John Profit, and GX Development Manager Eric Nutt to tell you about how they've leveraged rapid application development to start modernizing their county quickly. We had this great conversation with the Franklin County team earlier this year with the National Association of Counties and thought it would be great to reshare for Empower. Let's hear from Adam next and hang around till the end for live Q&A. Thanks.
So it's great to see a lot of my friends and peers out there today, and welcome to our webinar. Most of you know our story, but shortly, we started out, we are a technology solutions provider for Franklin County. We started this process around 5 years ago, even though we have a long history of time since 1967 as a data center in Franklin County. But we started the process 5 years ago to be an entrepreneurial, innovative environment that either buys, builds, and deploys and supports secure technology solutions for everything in our environment. We actually provide, we look at ourselves as Rita brought it out, we look at ourselves as a technology service provider within the county. So that means that we provide the technology for 40 plus agencies in the county, a little over 6,000 users in the county as well. And our job is to bring forth everything that's needed. And we started out with a why. And that why is we believe exceptional technology solutions enable agencies to provide better services to the residents and the businesses of Franklin County. And we did that on purpose because our focus is the people outside the four walls. And the best way we can do that is to create and provide the best possible services through a secure environment inside the four walls to our 40 plus partner agencies. So what we do is give people what they need in order to do their jobs in the best way possible. So one of the things we've always looked at is how do we move forward and how do we bring a better environment to each person? It may be technical debt that we need to correct or change. It may be that we want to be innovative and be quicker to market on certain things. And that's kind of what brought us to where we are today and how we got to where we needed to do something different. And I'm not going to say any more about that because I kind of pushed John in a direction and kind of said, hey, I want you to do this and I want you to look at it. And he's going to tell that story as part of our next piece. So I want to welcome everyone and just thank you for being here with us.
The challenges that we face in our software area and developing government experience as our major goal is technical debt had been building up over many years over a lot of different platforms. Some of the platforms which have gone kind of out of favor, COBOL being sort of the oldest one. Software talent, as all of you know, is very expensive and it tends to have high turnover. There's a lot of opportunity for people in the software space, so it's hard to hold on to those folks. It's even hard to hold on to contractors in some cases. And our small team, even though perhaps depending on what the size of your agency is, maybe our team seems large, but when you have as many products as we do, it's a relatively small team. We aren't really able to build everything in a full stack model. That is, we can't always be building the front end and the back end and the logic and application layers in the middle and integrate with other platforms and. You can't do everything when you have a relatively small team. So from a strategic standpoint, we were casting about like, okay, what do we do? And we knew that low code or no code app environments, which I think probably many of you know about, and there's many of them out there, that was going to be a real winner for us. That was going to enable us to hire folks that maybe have a little bit less software development experience. When they do develop software, it would move along a little faster because many of the pieces of that environment had been built already. And that we wouldn't have to go full stack and build everything ourselves. Typically, most folks will go towards the Microsoft Power Platform. Many of you are probably on the government version of Microsoft 365, and so it's kind of included. It's essentially free, so to speak, and that is what typically people do. So we did put QuickBase to work, and I'll be handing it over here to Eric here in a second, who's our development manager. And we wanted to pursue probably not what most people would pursue in their first outing with a low-code, no-code platform, and that was taking on an application called Unclaimed Funds, which had been built on a legacy platform and was at least 20 years old, I think, when we got to it. Application interfaces facing the public, facing internal staff. The thing managed is about $4 million at present. It fluctuates in sort of active management, and it handles personally identifiable information, or PII. And so it was a little sensitive. We thought, all right, well, if QuickBase can handle this, then there's a lot of smaller apps that we have that we can just bang out pretty quickly. So let's tackle the big one first. And this is where I hand it off to Eric.
So if we're going to talk about the challenge of modernizing unclaimed funds, first we'll have to define what unclaimed funds actually are. We'll follow that with how the old system worked, and then we'll talk about how we modernized it with a hybrid application strategy. It was kind of a three-pronged affair, and it was very much not a typical first app for something like QuickBase, but this is the waters, the deep waters that we dove into. So let's go to the next slide. So what are unclaimed funds? In many governmental entities, whether it's state, city, local, there exist unclaimed funds. Unclaimed funds are monies that have been paid out to one or more individuals or companies, but for whatever reason, the checks issued just haven't been cashed. The governmental entities are required to maintain these funds even if the checks don't get cashed, and they need to be able to provide them if someone makes a valid claim on them. So either on behalf of themselves or on behalf of a family member. So these funds could be expired checks, payments from the treasurer, payments from children's services, or any of the other agencies within Franklin County. Next slide. So unclaimed funds within Franklin County are maintained by the Franklin County Auditor's Office. And for decades, the administrators within the Auditor's Office have processed unclaimed funds in a program written in the COBOL programming language, hosted on an IBM AS400 mid-range computer, which is just a smaller version of a mainframe. Along with that comes all of the trappings of the mainframe experience. The administrators used arrow keys and function keys on green screens to do their work. Entering data and processing claims was tedious, difficult, and very prone to error. The amount to learn to use the system was huge. The chances of hitting the wrong key and making a huge mistake were quite high. Next slide. We also had to solve for the customer-facing experience. When a member of the public visited the old Unclaimed Funds website, search results were presented in a web design straight out of the 1990s. Next slide. To improve the daily working lives of the administrators of unclaimed funds, we focused on the government experience of the product. Government experience stems from user experience, or UX, and customer experience, or CX. By exploring the user's journey throughout a system and every interaction therein, we can improve the experience and provide a better government service. The only way we can provide these benefits to our customers is to walk in our customers' shoes. So we met with the administrators, the actual people doing their work, not just their bosses. We saw what they did step by step and asked them why they did it. We found that many reasons why something was done was either because, well, we think we might be bound to this by law, but we're not really sure, or just because this is the way we've always done it. By asking the why, we were able to create a design that's oriented to the service being provided. And the intuitive nature of QuickBase made it a very logical choice for our new administrative solution for unclaimed funds. The team was provided a wonderful opportunity to think outside the box. We knew that QuickBase really shined when applied to solutions being used within an organization. So we knew it was the perfect fit for our administrative application. We also knew that we wanted to be able to utilize a modern web framework, in this case, one called React, when creating the public-facing application. So the team was able to rapidly develop APIs, or application programming interfaces, using Microsoft.NET to communicate between the QuickBase and React solutions. And then here we are going to present a short video recorded by one of the developers that worked on the project, Luke, to walk through the new unclaimed funds.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luke McCormick, and I've been working on our QuickBase application for unclaimed funds for the last 6 to 9 months. I had no prior QuickBase experience, but as Eric talked about, the speed of learning and getting an application going, I saw firsthand. It only took me maybe a month or two of learning, reading documentation, building a test application before I was able to start developing this for our customer. I also saw on many occasions when I was on a call with our customer, I was able to implement feedback in real time, which I saw greatly decreased how long it took to produce and develop this application. QuickBase, I really saw, does lend to a speed of getting up and running with developing, as well as a speed of development. So I just want to quickly run through what we built and show off some of the features and functionality. And so as you can see from my screen, this is the initial screen that the admin from the customer is greeted with when they log in. This would be their dashboard or their home page. And so this is a lot of quick hit pieces of information, as well as buttons that lends well to their business processes. And so across the top here, we see that there's a search functionality using agency name, payee name, and street address. This is customizable, but we chose these 3 because this is what the customer said would be most useful and beneficial for their workflows, as well as each column can be filtered from high to low or A to Z. And so this is what they're initially greeted with. On the left, we have some customized buttons. There are things that they use often and regularly, so we want to make those easily available. So this would be a new unclaimed fund, an import from Excel, summary report creator, and various other buttons. I'm going to go through these 3 here in a little bit. As well as there's gauges here at the bottom that show sum totals or averages of maybe amount or accounts or different kinds of funds. And these are, again, totals or gauges that the customer is going to use often for their auditing and reporting. So instead of having to create individual reports each time, they have these readily available. So with this new unclaimed fund button, customer would select that and they would be greeted with this page. This just allows them to create a new unclaimed fund to import into the system. The form was really easy to build, very user-friendly, straightforward, easy to customize where the fields were, as well as put validation on them. The other button we saw on the homepage is the import from Excel. And so when this is selected, the customer or the admin would be taken here. And so this allows them to import many records at once. This was important because prior to this, they had to do a lot of manual entry. But using this function, they're able to come here, choose a file for the unclaimed funds table or any table, and import from Excel. This again is very user-friendly because they can go through and make sure that each column corresponds to the correct field. So this one for payee name, they can update that. Maybe there's a column they realize they no longer need. You can select do not import. But on the Excel document, you can make the first row the list of field names, which allows them to use a template to easily import many records at once. And we can use this for all the tables. So we've used it for unclaimed funds, but payments, again, they had a pain point of manually entering payments. But now with this, they're able to import multiple payments at once, which automatically link to the correct unclaimed fund using a field of related unclaimed fund, as many of these tables are related. All right, and so let's move on to the next tab here. I talked about reporting. So they do a lot of reporting for auditing and making sure their records are correct. And so we have this summary report creator button. When the customer selects that, we have this customized report page, which again, with the selected fields that they found most beneficial, they're able to filter by, let's say this, the treasurer funds or probate court and treasurer. And so they can decide what's most beneficial for them and create easy to use, fast, efficient reports. Another table I want to highlight is the record movements table. For them, auditing was essential. When a fund came into the system, when it was moved throughout the system, when a payment was issued. And so we created a record movements table. So for each one of these funds, there's a record that's inserted here that shows when it came into the system, when it was moved to a different part of the system, when the payment was issued. And we were able to do this utilizing what QuickBase calls pipelines. So pipelines on this tab are just automated processes That'd be the best way I could describe it. That may not be exactly the best way, but these are automated processes. So we've created many different pipelines that when we want a certain piece of functionality or a certain action to happen, it automatically does this for us. And so again, this is just automating a lot more of the work for the customer. Instead of them having to manually put a record into this table to have an audit or a trail of the fund, this pipeline that we created, one of these pipelines automatically does it for them. We also utilize pipelines for our integration with DocuSign, which I'm going to show us here as our last part. So this is the admin side, but there is a user side. Like Eric said, we integrated a user.NET React application with QuickBase utilizing the QuickBase API. And so the last part I didn't show is when a claim is submitted. And so this would be the user side. And if they were to select, let's say, one car sales, they now have a claim form. So I already have this pre-populated. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this. Because of our integration, we can come to the admin panel here. We'll go ahead and check the claims table. We now have this new claim submitted by me, Luke McCormick. And so when a user submits a claim, it's automatically added to QuickBase. QuickBase has these buttons as well that we're able to add for the status of the claim. So when a claim is approved, it automatically updates who approved it, the approval date, and changes the status to approved. We also, again, using pipelines, have an integration with DocuSign. We needed the customers to be able to sign these forms. And so QuickBase very easily and rapidly allowed us to integrate with our DocuSign account so that when a customer submits a claim, they receive an email with a DocuSign form. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up for us. They receive an email with a DocuSign form that allows them to finish the claim process. What's nice with the QuickBase pipelines is once they complete this DocuSign form, we have a pipeline that's picking up this from DocuSign, it's checking DocuSign, and automatically submits a copy of the form's PDF to the correct claim in QuickBase. And so again, utilizing QuickBase, we're able to make this process a lot more seamless for the customer, as well as from the end user, a lot easier to use and more simplified.
What were the results? What value did we realize from using QuickBase? Well, first, it was rapid. We were able to launch our QuickBase app for unclaimed funds in 4 months. As Luke mentioned, this included learning the platform, learning QuickBase's APIs, and writing some custom code. It would have taken 2 full-time staff about a year of work to create the same solution with traditional development or full stack development. And with our current experience as it is now, we think it would take half the time to launch a similar application. It was also iterative. QuickBase is a really good product for a process that is in constant refinement like this one. We were able to add features after every weekly show and tell meeting with our customer. And then finally, it was intuitive. Unlike the AS400, QuickBase solutions are web-based and allow a user today to use all of the intuitive features of the internet experience in 2024 without having to learn a bunch of function keys and keyboard shortcuts. And now for looking forward, what we're going to move on to, I'm going to turn it back over to John.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So QuickBase, as part of our strategy, I mentioned the low code, no code thing earlier as being a key strategic element of how we're going to proceed to retire more technical debt and deal with other issues. Phases, we're thinking in 3 phases, really. One phase is done, and that is just the procurement, which many of you know, that alone can be a project unto itself. But that was finished in phase 1. We did learn the platform, and Luke's not the only developer that learned the platform. Eric knows it as well. And actually our platforms team has had some contact with it. So QuickBase actually cuts across not just our development team, but our platforms team as well. So we've learned the platform. We've built and launched this first public-facing and internally-facing app, and we're still making adjustments there. But phase 1 is essentially done with the launch of Unclaimed Funds, which was a couple of months ago. Phase 2 is where we are now. That's what we're doing at the moment, and that is we're making app refinements for Unclaimed Funds specifically, but then we're also expanding our QuickBase usage to cover more use cases. We do have a laundry list of technical debt to retire. Some of it built on Cold Fusion, which many of you may remember. It does still exist. Adobe does still offer that, but our stuff is a bit older. And that was not quite low code, but it was high level language code from many years ago. We've got tons of apps there that we need to convert. So phase 3 for us, we have not started that. We see that in our future, hopefully near future. And to date, we've used QuickBase by withholding it really just to our development team and platform team. We don't anticipate handing that to our agencies yet, the agencies that we serve here in Franklin County, but we do anticipate doing that someday, perhaps even fairly soon. And that is where, and QuickBase will talk about this, I'm sure, if they don't talk about it today, it's out there, and that is enabling citizen developers. There's some other terms for it, but the idea being that if you've got somebody who's really great with Excel, you can hand them QuickBase. There's AI tools, other things that are built into it that can enable them to create apps very rapidly that are 100 times better than them storing spreadsheets and shooting them around. You'll hear the term gray work, and that is the kind of stuff where people do things in the dumb way, like, well, I've got this email and I've got this spreadsheet and I've got this PowerPoint deck and I've got, and I'll just kind of like slam it all together and that'll be the solution. Well, if you were to use something more like QuickBase, you can build out from there and have a much smarter and more flexible and capable solution. But to do that, you need to spread out the access to more people, and that means enabling a citizen development movement out there in our agencies. But to do that, we need to support that. We can't just turn that over to them. They would need support and education and help. But we do anticipate doing that out in the future. And as we do that, we would evangelize the platform and find more use cases. And we've got some technical debt to retire first, but as we complete that in phase 2, we'll move on and spread our wings a little bit.